katoa, talofalava, malawalele. Good evening. I'm actually rather pleased to be here because I came down from Auckland today and we circled over Wellington so many times waiting for a landing slot. I was a bit worried this event would be over by the time we landed, but anyway. Thanks so much to Lisa. Her research is just incredible and, you know, academically kind of proves in great detail what we who work in this area have known anecdotally for many years, but of course having the detailed research is just fantastic. And just before I start, I'll just mention Lisa talked about that recent law change to make partners liable. That actually happened as a result of Kathryn's case. So yeah, because Kathryn's case has been going on for so many, many years. When I took Kathryn a story of Kathryn's story to read, she ended up in tears. She found it really upsetting reading the details of her life and reliving what she's been through. But she was also very upset and angry because she didn't realise that what's happened to her has happened to lots of other single mums on benefits. And she was in tears at the thought that so many other women have gone through what she's gone through. We had the launch of Kathryn's story in Auckland in July, and I asked her beforehand if there were things that she wanted me to say at the launch. I'm just going to read you what she said to me because you don't yet, or most of you don't yet know Kathryn's story, so you don't know everything that happened, but I think what she says probably gives you quite a good idea of her indomitable spirit and her determination, and perhaps shows you why she's been fighting the Ministry of Social Development for over 15 years now. So what she said was, over her dead body would she pay the money Work and Income is trying to get from her. I just want justice for those of us who've gone through so much abuse in our lives and been labelled as being in a relationship when we weren't, and to have our names cleared. Why should we pay for something we didn't do? $10 or $20 a week taken out of our benefits and repayments is a lot. $10 is milk and bread, $20 is milk, bread and my tablets. Everyone thinks that you're on a benefit and you're getting heaps. Like hell we are. We can't buy fresh fruit and veggies, and when we go and ask for a loan to help out, we get treated like shit by Work and Income and get walked over. I'm not paying for something I didn't do. They can kiss my ass. I'll die before I give them a cent. And then she went on to say that it's bad enough that she went to jail for something I didn't do. In that time, my daughter had a miscarriage, my kids were thrown out on the street, and my other daughter was physically abused. I'll just do a bit of a trigger warning. I'm going to talk about the killing of a child and domestic violence and sexual violence, so just so people are aware. Kathryn was born in 1960. She almost died when she was 2 weeks old. Her bowels hadn't developed properly and she had an operation just in time to save her life. Her father was in and out of jail and was violent and abusive. He seriously attacked Kathryn on 2 occasions and beat her siblings with a razor strap. Her stepfather was an alcoholic who sexually abused her. Kathryn had her first child just before her 20th birthday. She was on the pill when she became pregnant. The father of her child repeatedly beat her, but she actually says that his beatings were a lot better than being raped by her stepfather. The father of her child didn't sign their son's birth certificate and has never paid anything financially to support his son. When he was assessed to pay child support, he quit his job. Kathryn has worked for nearly all her life. Her first full-time job was in a supermarket, and later on she was the first woman to work on the extrusion line at AHI. She says, women can do anything. I was the first woman employed on the line, and all the men took bets on how long I would last. I said, I've got news for you. I just applied for the job and said I was a fast learner, which I was. Then I worked down in the blender room, and I was the first female there as well. We lugged bags of powder weighing 60 kilograms. But Kathryn didn't work long at AHI. Her ex-husband beat her and she had to leave her job to go into women's refuge. Kathryn had a second son and then a daughter. Her third son, Robbie, was born on 11 March 1988. She met a new partner, Sperry, who's not Robbie's father, and Kathryn and her 4 children and Sperry moved in together. On the 8th of November 1989, Kathryn took Robbie to hospital because he was suffering from reflux. They came home later and Kathryn then dropped Sperry at his work. It was the first day that Robbie had used a potty. Kathryn and Robbie made fudge together, and that's the last time Kathryn's made fudge. Dinner was lamb's fry, bacon, gravy and mashed potatoes, and Kathryn's never made that meal since then. After Sperry came home from work, Kathryn went out to buy cigarettes. She was trying to give up smoking and she was smoking lighter cigarettes. When she got home, Robbie was lying on the bed making terrible noises. Kathryn ran up the road to phone for an ambulance because Sperry wouldn't let her take Robbie to hospital. Kathryn went in the ambulance with Robbie, and when they got to hospital, Robbie was taken into one room and Kathryn into another. The doctor came to tell her that Robbie probably wouldn't make it, and he came back later to say that Robbie had died. Kathryn ran to try and get into the theatre where Robbie was, and they locked the door to keep her out. This mum, whose toddler had just been beaten to death by her partner, they locked the door to keep her away from him. Kathryn climbed through a laundry chute to get to Robbie. They had him lying on a bed, on his face with nothing on. Kathryn picked him up and wrapped him in a blanket. She asked for a flannel. The nurse brought a cold one, and Kathryn said to her, "You don't use a cold flannel." Kathryn was then taken to the police station for questioning and kept there all night. So she wasn't allowed to be either with Robbie or with her other children. And that's because the police at that stage didn't know how Robbie had died, so they questioned Kathryn and they questioned Sperry. Sperry initially denied he'd assaulted Robbie, and he then said that Kathryn had assaulted Robbie. Eventually, Sperry was charged with Robbie's manslaughter and convicted and sentenced to 3 years jail. And that's just an incredibly short sentence, which wouldn't happen now, but even at the time there was an appeal and the sentence was increased to 6 years. While Sperry was out on bail, Kathryn bumped into him and he threatened her and said, "This isn't over." Obviously she was incredibly terrified both for herself and for her children. And those threats that Sperry made have stayed with Kathryn ever since and have really coloured her life and what she's done. She believed that he meant them and she feared for her family. After Robbie was killed, Kathryn lost care of her children, and the only thing that she was then trying to do in life was get her children living back with her again. Child, Youth and Family told her that she would have a better chance if she was in a stable relationship. She began a relationship with Mr. E. They moved in and bought a house together, but the relationship didn't last. Kathryn, not surprisingly, was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. She was doing everything she could to get her children back living with her, and obviously she was grieving over Robbie's death. Kathryn was also very, very fearful about her and her children's safety because one of her partners had turned up at her house after getting out of jail, and she thought if he could find her quite easily, then Sperry probably would be able to find her when he got out of jail. Kathryn and Mr. E had broken up their relationship, so they sold their house, and Kathryn found a house in a rural area, and she thought she and the children would be safe there. It was off the main road and a bit back from the road. She and Mr. E were on friendly terms, so the house was put in his name because Kathryn didn't want her name used anywhere on any documents on anything, and she still to this day doesn't enrol to vote and doesn't have her name on documents. Mr. E made regular visits and Kathryn became pregnant and had a child to him. His name is not on the birth certificate and he's never paid child support. Later, Kathryn's elder daughter told her Mr. E and a family member had both sexually abused her for years, and that one of her sons was also sexually abused. Kathryn straight away went and laid a complaint with the police, and Mr. E and the family member were both charged with sexual abuse. So what Mr. E did then was contact Work and Income and say that they'd been in a relationship and Kathryn had been getting a benefit that she wasn't entitled to. So then we had our legal process. Mr. E and the family member were prosecuted for sexual abuse. Both of them were acquitted. Kathryn was prosecuted for